Welcome to Concussion Talk Podcast, Episode 3. In this episode, I will interview Ryan Van Asten. He is beginning his second season as the strength and conditioning coach for the Calgary Flames. From 2011 till 2014, he was the strength and conditioning coach for the LA Kings, during which time they won 2 Stanley Cups. Training camp begins in less than a month, so it was great to be able to interview him at this time. I will ask him about how he trains players, how he trains concussed athletes, and what he's noticed in concussed athletes. Okay, so I'm on the phone with Ryan Van Asten. He's the strength and conditioning coach for the Calgary Flames, and I'll get him to tell you about his background, his title, his education. So go ahead, Ryan.
Well, first of all, I just want to thank you, Nick, for having me on. It's been a long time since we spoke, and it's gonna be fun. But my basic background, education-wise, I did a Bachelor of Science degree in Life Sciences at Queen's University in Kingston, Ontario, and Bachelor of Physical and Health Education there as well. And from there, went on to do my Master's of Science in Exercise Physiology at the University of Calgary. And, from there, I just went on to my career. I did an internship at Athletes Performance in Pensacola, Florida. And, that's kind of the extent of my educational background. I have a few certifications on top of that as well. But.
Oh, well, okay, so my next question is, your title is strength and conditioning coach for the Calgary Flames, right?
Yeah.
And so what does that entail? What does your job entail?
Oh, pretty much exactly what it sounds like. Basically in a basic sense, looking at the fitness of the athletes and strength and, their overall strength and power, their energy systems conditioning, also dealing with nutrition, supplementation, a little bit of rehab. It's a pretty wide scope, to be honest. So
okay, so
making sure the guys are ready to play in the games and perform at the highest level they can play at.
So do you take them aside early in the season or random times during the season and try to train things, or does the coach and player come to you at the beginning of the season and say, we want to improve this or want to do this? Where do you get your directions from?
To be honest, I get direction from all around, and most of what I do is guided by what I'm seeing. And at the beginning of the year, we'll do physiological testing on the athletes. From there, you kind of build a program based around what they need, what you're seeing there. And I work with these guys so closely. I know I see them every single day, and I know exactly kind of their deficiencies and what they need to work on, and we build plans from there. And I talk to the coaching staff every single day. They're providing feedback, maybe something that they're seeing on the ice that we can work on off the ice as well. I get feedback from general managers and management staff, feedback from our medical staff. So it is a team, and we all work together to try to get these guys, to where we think they need to be. And it goes both ways too. There's things that I see sometimes in the gym or off the ice that may apply to what they're doing on the ice. So.
That sounds really interesting.
Yeah,
So I'll
it
ask you
is
one
really.
more exercise. I'll ask you one more exercise question before I get into the concussion stuff.
Sure.
So, is there a specific type of exercise or exercise? I don't know, just exercises that you like to do or you think are most effective, or just everything?
Yeah, I mean it's an interesting question, and a lot of people ask me what my favorite exercises are, or and that kind of thing. But to be honest, it's really individual, and it depends really on what the athlete needs, where they are in their kind of overall development. I have a philosophy that every athlete really needs to be great at the basic things, basic movement patterns, basic lifting patterns, And, if they're not good at that, we need to get them really good at that. And then it goes beyond there. If they've mastered all of that, then we can progress into more advanced techniques and movements and that kind of thing. But to be honest, there isn't really one specific thing. But I do think everyone needs to be really great at basic, compound movements, basic body weight movements, and be able to control their own body, basically.
Right, gotcha. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So how many times, like, this is actually the last exercise question. How many times, like, generally per week, month, whatever, I know it depends on schedule, but would you see an athlete off the ice?
Well, in season, every day. So we train every day here in Calgary, and that doesn't necessarily mean we're hitting the weights really hard or anything like that. But
Yeah.
every day, basically, my system would be the guys would come in. We work on soft tissue work, mobility work, a little bit of core, and then we do some dynamic movements for warm up before they go on the ice. And I consider that training.
You're right.
Uh, and yeah, I get to see them move. I get to see how they're reacting to certain things. I get to see, different aspects of, the core stability and that kind of thing. And then, depending on the day and the schedule, we'll also do, a weight training session or conditioning session off the ice. But I see in season every single day. So, I maybe not every single day. But there's 4 times a month where they have a day off, and we won't see them in the gym. But other than that, it's pretty much every day.
Oh, yes, yeah, she leads well to my first concussion question. Do you guys do, like, baseline testing before the season or random times during the season?
Yeah. So as part of our, you know, day one of training camp, we do all of our medical and fitness testing, and part of the medical side of it is they have to do the SCAT3 and impact testing.
Afraid, yes, right. Can you just
And
explain briefly what those are? Do you
to
know?
be honest,
Or
it's
it's
I
one
don't know.
medical?
I don't know the exact details of those tests. That's kind of on the medical side, but
Right,
it's kind of their baseline testing and just kind of um, see where they are in terms of their cognitive abilities and that kind of thing.
right.
Uh, and there's obviously a lot of different, visual aspects to it and that kind of thing. Um, and that's actually mandated by the NHL as well. So every team has to do that.
Okay, right.
So
So,
everyone gets a baseline, and I think the league actually collects the data too.
that's good.
Yeah.
That,
So that's a big part of it. Our medical staff probably does some other things on top of that as well. But to be honest, I'm not sure what we have in store this year because we have a new medical staff.
right.
So yeah,
Okay.
but those two concussion tests are across the board, across the league. Everyone has to do it.
So now, before this is your first year at the Calgary Flames. Just about to start your second. Um, you just spent the past, well, last year with the Flames, but before that, you were with the LA Kings,
Yeah,
and they won their two Stanley Cups.
2 cups. Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah.
So have you noticed that? And that was your first NHL position, right?
Yes, yeah, it
So
was.
have you noticed any changes in the way concussions are treated since you started with the league? Or
You know, this will be I'm going into my 5th year in the NHL. There hasn't been a lot of changes, since I've started. One of the big things actually, along when Sidney Crosby was having all of his concussion issues a number of years back, was looking more at kind of the neck and the neck musculature and how that's affecting certain things and treating, the different, symptoms of that and that kind of thing. And also, along the lines of more, proprioceptive training with eyes and gaze and that kind of thing. But um, not, in those course of those 4 or 5 years, not a lot has changed too much.
has it much changed in the way other players, or treat themselves or others who have had
Yeah,
concussions?
well, I think this is one of the big things is that players are far more aware of it now. than even when I started. So players aren't willing to risk as much as they were in the past, and partly because they're more educated now than they were, and people are starting to recognize the symptoms a little bit better, and there's just too much on the line, for a lot of these guys, and um, I think everyone's a little bit more cautious and a little bit more conservative for sure.
Okay. So during a game, an athlete is concussed that previously, as far as you know, has not had a concussion.
Mm-hmm.
When do you find out? How do you who tells you? Does the medical staff get in touch directly with you, or does the player tell you, the coach, or
So if anything happens, on the ice, um, if it's a big hit, or whatever happens, if the player goes unconscious for a second or two or whatever it is, it's also a league rule that they have to go to the quote unquote quiet room and be seen by the medical doctors, and whatever the tests um, they do there will determine whether or not they are concussed, or if they're not, if they're able to continue on. But they have to spend a certain amount of time in that quiet room. And off the top of my head, I don't quite remember what it is. It's at least 15 minutes. Um, and so that's the initial stage. And then from there, the medical doctor will notify coaches and that kind of thing to, you know, see what the next steps are, I guess.
so? Are you informed that this player is being concussed and he'll come to you to train him a certain way, or
Yeah, so basically, I work so closely with the medical staff. We meet
right?
every day. We work together in on most things. And if a player is concussed, they basically will guide that player, through the initial stages of recovery, um, and guide me as well. I mean, to be honest, with a concussed player, I'm not doing a whole lot with them at the beginning, anyways.
Right. Yeah.
It's kind of out of my hands a little bit, and it's not till they get a little bit healthier, whereas I start to jump in a little bit on their training. But
So what have you know? Have you know? I was going to ask you a question. What you noticed with concussed players? What do you find they have a lot of difficulty with if a player has, let's say, multiple concussions, like as opposed to a player has had none, or as far as you know, has had none?
there's a lot of different things, to be honest. And seeing things when it comes to their balance. Sometimes they have a little bit of balance deficiency, a little bit of postural instability. Some of that, depends on the guy. Some of that times they have like a little bit dizzy, or they have vision problems, a little bit blurred or light sensitive, that kind of thing. And another thing too is sometimes they get really fatigued quickly.
I was going to ask that. That was another
And
question. Exactly.
yeah, so they get fatigued a lot quicker, and um, we have to be very gradual on how we progress these guys, so we're not crossing that, you know, symptom threshold to put them to the point where, we set them back, and it's pretty difficult to do actually at the beginning. Um, we have to be very conservative in the way we approach this for sure.
Yeah. Wow. You know, if you kind of answer. My next question was going to be, what else do you know? What else do you notice about them? About there anything about a concussed athlete, hockey player, you notice, or anything
You
really?
know, the one of the things I noticed with the guys is that progress for most of them isn't linear. So what I mean by that
Yeah.
is, and you probably know this too, is they could feel unbelievable for 3 4 days, and then all of a sudden the next day come in and feel the worst they felt in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It's not like they're getting. Sometimes they do get better and better every day, but it's not a linear thing. There's ups and downs in the whole recovery process, um, and for a professional athlete that a professional hockey player that wants to be on the ice, it's very frustrating at times.
Yeah.
Um, and then the responses to the training, with the individuals is quite a bit different as well. So you can give one guy, drill X, Y, and Z, and give another guy the same drills, and they have two completely different responses to that.
Yeah. Okay, right. So you're also with the Canadian women's hockey team for how many years?
Almost 4 years.
And so, geez, so you must have spent a lot of time with training them and seeing how do they react to concussions different than men? Do you find is there a difference?
No, to be honest, I think it's more. It's kind of along the lines I'm seeing. It's just the individual approach. I don't know, and I don't think I have enough data to comment on the
Right.
differences between
Yeah.
men and women.
Yeah.
Um, I have a very small sample size when it comes to that, but
Right.
I think that it is an individual response either way.
Yeah. And I think. And is there anything else you can think of that you'd like to mention about concussions? Because I think I've run out of questions. Um,
Um, not really. I think from our standpoint, the way we approach it is, the recovery is pretty conservative. I mean, first off, we make sure the rest is important. Like that's going to help them heal. Once they're symptom free, we'll kind of progress to maybe some light aerobic type work, then progress to body weight movement drills, proprioceptive work, you know, going from static to dynamic to adding some reaction stuff to that, some gaze stuff, and then gradually progressing and, without, crossing that symptom threshold. I don't know. It's kind of the approach that we use here, and it seems to work. But I think ultimately, it's the time, time they need time to heal.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
you know.
exactly. Well, great. I think that's all. Thanks so much, and yeah, and good luck for this coming season, with the Flames. And although I guess I'm a majority Canadians fan, but
Uh,
I'll root for the Flames in the
different
Western Conference.
different conference. Yeah, you could cheer
Yes, I
for it.
can do this.
Yeah.
And plus, I have a friend on the Flames now, so
Well, I
that's it.
appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. Thank you.
I would like to thank Ryan again for his time, and all the best to him and his team for this upcoming season. Please check out my blog, www.concussiontalk.com, in which you can find other articles I've written, more podcasts, and a link to my ebook Detour on the right side of the page. Thank you for listening, and I hope you'll listen again soon. As always, the music at the beginning of this podcast is by Ben Sound. www.bensound.com.